Hey, good morning. This is Laura Roehrick from the YouTube channel Foot Care Extraordinaire or Project Street Feet. All sorts of things going on this little channel, including my granddaughter doing her pre-surgery dance. I am here. It's January 3rd. Happy New Year, everybody. It's got to be a better year. Last year was pretty intense. And the reason this particular episode is so late is I'm going to go into the second part of the history of foot care nursing in North America through my eyes, anyway. Actually, this is going to be mostly about how the drill and the high speed equipment got to North America, I think. But August, my fourth grandchild was born. I was gone for 5 weeks, came back. A few weeks after that, my county burned down. And for those of you who watch the news, the wine country fires were right in my backyard, literally 3 blocks away. We had burning leaves from our tree in our yard. So we were evacuated. And then in the middle of that, my granddaughter had her second open heart surgery and she's doing fine. And then the holidays, and it's just been crazy. So anyway, where we were, I think I was talking about Teresa Kellichai 4 or 5 months ago whenever I did that first part. So historically in North America, there had to have been a handful of nurses doing some foot care, but they didn't know how special they were at the time, I don't think. But the real pioneers who I know about are Jane Kelly with the Countryside Nurse, who started the whole home foot care nursing movement, and really instrumental. And I've never met her in person, but we've communicated, and my hat's off to her. And then Teresa Kellichai is really the goddess, the mother of foot care nursing as far as it becoming a formal discipline. She started having the first courses, and that's how I got started. I found out about her in 94, 95, and I think I talked about that. Okay, so in the early 2000s, I think it was 2002, I was taught to use the Dremel. That's what I thought, was the proper equipment, etc. And I ended up going to a beauty trade show in Sacramento, and Dr. Oscar Mix, who wrote the book Salon Professional's Guide to Foot Care, was doing an 8-hour workshop for nail technicians on kind of medical nail care. So I brought a group of nurses with me there, and that's what was just a total change of my life direction. He was using a little portable drill from, I forget the company back east. Erica's. He had a little Erica's drill. And it still took me, a couple months before I invested in one, because I think it was $400 or something like that. But I walked away from that show going, oh my God, nail technicians are using better equipment than healthcare professionals. So then I just became 100% on board high-speed files, and I think that one was only 20,000 RPMs and probably didn't even go reverse. I don't know, but it changed the whole way that I did foot care. So I got very excited about this revelation or epiphany, and at that time I was starting to communicate with some foot nurses in Canada because they had hundreds of foot care nurses up there. They had courses going. That's what inspired me to start my business. I found an article, I forget who wrote it, called How to Start Your Own Foot Care Business. And when I read that article, I contacted our board of nursing in California, and I said, can I, start a business? They go, yeah, nurses can have their own business as long as you don't diagnose, prescribe, or perform surgery. That's fine. So I did it. I just started. I had no clue what I was doing, and I'll probably do another YouTube on just the business end of it and walk you through some of those steps as I remember them. But anyway, I started my own business, and then I had this new drill technology, and I was communicating with some people in Canada, and I went up there, and I forget if it was 2002. I don't have my curriculum vitae or whatever, my history, but early 2000s, I went up to Canada with, a 100-pound suitcase full of every drill. By then I had accumulated all these different kind of drills, and I did a workshop on that. So to my knowledge, before I came up there, every nurse in Canada was using a Dremel. So I thought this was pretty revolutionary. I was very proud of myself. I thought, oh boy, I've got my niche here. I can just become the drill person of North America, etc. But sadly, what ended up happening is, I brought this technology there. I did, and this was before the Helios. This was just little portable drills and a few. Oh, I had some horrible bigger drills that were big and clunky, but I forget what it was called. Anyway, I just thought that I had found my little niche in the world. But what ended up happening is I brought the technology up there, and boy, did I meet with resistance. I actually had one of the leaders of the field tell me that she could do anything with her Dremel that I could do with my high-speed drill. And, it's just totally not true. So I did one conference up there on the drill, and then the next thing I know, other people were taking this. I mean, it wasn't my intellectual property, but I discovered it. But because people could get other people to come, actually a former student of mine ended up doing the next one who was using a Dremel before me, but a company she was working with sponsored her way up. So this is what started the downfall of me realizing that I was not cut out for the business world. I was just way too emotional, and how I was treated and what happened. I won't go into the long story, but it was awful. It kind of broke my heart, and I did work up there doing some education for a couple years. It was very unclear, the whole business aspect of it, of what I would get, what was my part, etc. And after a couple of years, I just got out of doing that. But how the Helios got there is a pretty interesting story. Again, around the early 2000s, maybe 2004 or 5 or something, I was doing a search, and I found for high-speed podiatry drills, and I found the Helios made by Germany. And I contacted Chris, the owner of the company, and I said, hi, how can I get one of those? I'm in California. And he wrote back, yeah, this had to have been 2005. Anyway, he wrote back and he said it's not FDA approved, but we started this correspondence, and I signed everything, the best foot care nurse in the world. I was a little pompous because I think I'm a really good technician. I am definitely not the best foot care nurse in the world. A lot of the foot care stuff isn't my passion. The drills, the equipment, the supplies, infection control, all that stuff is my passion, but all the periphery, you have to know it to do it, but it's not my passion. So I think there's a lot better foot care nurses out there in those areas. So anyway, okay. So Chris and I kept in touch, and then a couple of years later, he wrote, "Okay, we have got." Oh, they didn't know. I said, "Do you know that there are foot care nurses in Canada? There's hundreds of them. This would be a great market." And he had been exporting to this company in Canada, but for the beauty industry, so they weren't aware of the foot nurse market, which is huge, and it's turned out to be a huge thing for both Canada and that company. Not me, unfortunately. But I'm not being sour grapes here. I want to let you know that I do totally believe that everything happens for a reason. I am like the happiest person I know, despite all the strange stuff that has happened. I am right where I need to be, doing exactly what I need to be doing, and everything that happened got me here. So I really don't have any regrets. But that being said, it was very hard for me at the time because I didn't have that perspective then. I had expectations. I thought I was going to be, this and that. And anyway, so it's been an interesting ride. So they finally get Helios approved in North America, but it only could be exported to this one distributor in Canada, not in the United States. So they got in touch with me. I went up there, and I remember distinctly going to some conference up there. I guess I don't remember that well because I don't remember which one it was, but being at the vendor fair, and I introduced the company I was with to all the vendors that are now selling Helios. I think Pedicare was one of them. I made these connections. It was me. And then I traveled, did a little bit of education, and then I was getting some sort of commission deal was going on, and then I would get nurses to try to buy from me, and they'd get a better warranty from a different company. So I'd spend all this time and energy, and then they'd go buy from somebody else because they could get. Anyway, it was just awful for me. And I decided I never wanted to be in sales again. And there's a saying, I can say this because I'm a nurse, but there's a saying that nurses eat their young. And I have to tell you that I have found that mostly to be true. There is something about nurse professionals that maybe they just don't know about business ethics or I whatever. But I had some really negative experiences there, and I kind of tucked my tail between my legs and came back and decided I wasn't going to have any part of that anymore. So that's how Helios, and now the Aurora is there, and and everybody has one. I was also the only nurse that I know to be using an autoclave before everybody else. And so some of the comments that I would get, because I did start the YouTube in 2009, and I shared a few videos there, and then I took them off because, again, I just didn't know how to handle the attention or whatever. But one educator said, call them burrs, not bits. Well, they're called bits. They can be bits or burrs. You can look them up, podiatry bits. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you know how to do with them. So that was interesting. And then I was also told, oh, don't tell anybody that you're self-taught. That's so unprofessional. So I couldn't take it. So I just decided that I was going to kind of forget the whole trying to unite North American foot care nurses together, and I was just going to go international because, and about that time, I started going to a lot of conferences that were international conferences. I went to the IDF meeting, I think in 2005 in South Africa, and then I got asked to speak. It was one of the probably highlights of my career at Dr. Bolton's course in Malvern. Whenever that was, 2006 or something. And then I started traveling, and I taught in Africa and Kuala Lumpur and ended up in Nepal. And I took a trip to Costa Rica and did a little bit of foot care talk in Mexico. And so I just started my own thing where it wasn't competing with other people, and I could stay out of the politics, personalities, and all the downside. And there were many times I just wanted to get out. It was just heartbreaking for me, but I just couldn't because I'm so passionate and I loved doing the foot care. So I just had to find my way in the foot care world that worked for me and my life and my family. And it's been a tough one. And I've lost friends. I've gained a lot of friends, but I've lost a lot of friends. And one thing that I learned about myself through all this is that I just have communication problems. I either over-communicate, under-communicate, or miscommunicate. So for me, finding this YouTube venue actually works out really well because I don't have to communicate with anybody about it. I can just open up my computer, do something, post it according to when I feel like it, which is what I'm doing right now. So all's well that kind of ends well, and that's like a brief history of back to the history part. Okay, so that's about the drill stuff. And then somewhere in there, the WOCN committee started to decide that they were going to have a certification track, and I was on the committee that Teresa Kellichai nominated me to be on the committee that made the first exam questions. So that was really fun for the CFCN. So I was one of the first CFCNs, and I kind of got I didn't have to take the test because I made the test. And that was a huge honor for me. But it got political. And I won't go into all the stories about that either. But eventually I was ousted from the committee because I started teaching, and that makes sense, conflict of interest. But there was also a lot of drama that went on with all that. So it just reinforced my opinion that, I want to help nurses because nurses are going to be the ones who are going to get these skills to the patients. But medical nail techs are in there now too. But I am much more interested basically in the care getting to the patients as opposed to at one point, I just wanted to help other nurses so they wouldn't have to go through what I went through. And I don't have that. I don't have that feeling so much anymore. What I want to do is help internationally anybody who can legally or not legally, anybody who wants to do foot care. I'm more interested in the global picture now than helping nurses start their own business or whatever. But so that's it. I'm going to put this out here. It's been long overdue, and I will talk with you later. I got to go clean my office and go do some foot care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.